Hello, I'm Bronwyn Charlesworth and I live now in Fairview Village, which is a lifestyle village. And my husband David and I moved here about 3 years ago, and sadly he has since died. We have 4 children and 13 grandchildren, and I think I missed them most when I was in lockdown. As I sat all alone with my memories, I began thinking of just how thankful I am that my parents walked me down the road to the Outram Hall in Murray's Bay to a small outreach Sunday school. I'm thankful to God's dedicated and faithful people who worked to establish the Murray's Bay Calvary Baptist Church, and in which I've been involved and worshipped ever since. That's where I was baptised, married, my husband David, in the hall that my dad built, taught Sunday school. I remember as a teenager, I was not impressed that I was stuck on the shore, but up to now, it's been my life sentence. I'm a true North Shore girl. Back to my memories. Songs and tunes really stick in your head, and they're dredged up when you're forced to stay home and try and think of things to do. And there has been plenty of time to think, to bake, eat, and clean, and clean. The window smudges couldn't be ignored, and I found myself humming, "Jesus wants me for a sunbeam, to shine for him each day." That's an oldie, isn't it? And as I polished up my few inherited family treasures and admired the shining results, oh, they did sparkle. Memories of people, places, and good times flooded back. And I was reminded that yes, I am purified, cleansed from my life's smudges, renewed, burnished and buffed. I want to be ready. I want to be ready to reflect God's loving rays out into my neighbourhood. Yes, and I want to sparkle and shine for him each day. And I've had time to rest in the love light of God's presence. I know that I am God's special possession, that in Christ I find my value. In Christ I find my belonging and my purpose and identity. Yes, Grant, I've been listening. Our grandchildren love treasure hunts, and I love watching their anticipation as they search excitedly at Easter and birthdays. So my daily challenge during lockdown has been, and still is, to hunt and find treasured memories and reminders of God's presence with me right here, right now. Here in the sunshine, in the garden, birds, friendships, answered prayers, looking for his shimmers in the storm. I am choosing not to worry about what may be around the bend. I'm waiting confidently, with a sparkle, to see what God will do, because I know that underneath are his everlasting arms.
Hi, I'm Mary. I'm married to Graham. We've been married for 53 years, and we have 3 married children and 8 grandchildren, so we're very blessed. In early March, I walked the Rootburn track with a friend from England. Graham wasn't able to walk, but he met us in Queenstown when we finished. This walk had been on my bucket list for many years, and I had been training for it since the beginning of the new year. So how did I find it? Amazing and absolutely awesome. Yes, I was filled with awe at God's creation. There I was in the wilderness, after the excitement of being helicoptered in due to the big storm that had badly damaged parts of the track. That first afternoon we walked through the beech forest. What a delight! Ghostly tree shapes covered with moss. It was so beautiful and so different. The second day was long and physically hard. Traversing Lake Mackenzie, we climbed steadily to the top of the ridge. Then the mist lifted and I could see mountaintops, the Hollyfoot Valley way below, and over towards the west coast I had a glimpse of the sea at Martins Bay. The beauty and majesty of those moments filled me with awe and gratefulness to God. And there was I, part of it. And then on across the alpine fields. As we walked, we would stop and look at the tiny alpine plants growing in these harsh conditions. Delicate leaves, tiny white flowers, and edible berries. Here, with all these plants growing close together in harmony, once again I was filled with awe at God's creation. Not only was there grandeur and majesty, but also such detail. How it reminded me that God is there in the big things in life, but also there in the small. It was hard going, but joyful as we climbed steadily uphill, across the Harris Saddle, then slowly descending down rocky steps in the rain and stopping to catch your breath at the waterfalls. Finally, sunshine on the last day and an easy walk towards Glenorchy. I didn't want to come out of this special bubble that we had been in. Just my friend and I, the guides and others in our group, and God and His incredible world. And then it was lockdown and it was quiet again. No traffic, no planes, just the quiet stillness and birdsong. And I thought about that verse, "Be still and know that I am God." So that's my pearl of wisdom. Be still and know that I am God. Slow down, enjoy smelling the roses, embrace the beauty that God has created, and know that God is there in the big things and the small things, and His love endures forever.
Hi, my name's Dave Ironside. I've been married to Penny for 55 years. We have 2 children and 7 grandchildren and been attending Windsor for the last 30 years. Looking back over the years of challenges and opportunities, we can see God's hand at work. Firstly, an employment issue. My superior is making false statements to management about my ability to do my job. By the end of that day, he was removed and I was promoted to his position as head of department. God works in mysterious ways. Secondly, we were encouraged to run a young people's home group. As we were new Christians at that time, we felt inadequate for such a big task. We relied on God and proceeded. We all learnt so much together. Thirdly, an opportunity arose to run the Baptist Youth Hostel in Gillies Ave, looking after 36 young people. What an experience, but so rewarding, and we stayed for 13 years. We know God is with us in all we do. It's great to study His Word, but we must act on His prompting. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him and He will direct your path. That is my pearl of wisdom.
Hello, my name is Penny. Before lockdown, we went on our first cruise. One morning we went down for breakfast and were taken to a table with 4 others, 2 sisters and a couple, all very nice. As time went on talking about our lives, one of the sisters started crying. She had lost her husband 11 days ago. Then the other lady started to cry. It was unreal. Her granddaughter had a medical issue. After a while I asked if they knew Jesus. All went quiet, proceeded to tell them He could be a comfort to them. One of the ladies showed an interest, but I decided to say no more. The ship docked in Wellington and we happened to bump into this lady on a walk around. She came running up to us and we talked about Jesus. It was amazing. Then she told us after Dave and I left the breakfast table, they had a discussion on, do you think Jesus is real? My thinking is, you have to seize the moment when you feel God is prompting you. Trust in the Lord at all times and follow his lead. That's my pearl of wisdom.
Good morning, church. I hope you have at least one eye open this morning. I'll use my notes so I can compress my natural gas. My first wife, Pat, and I and our young boys connected with Murray's Bay Baptist in the early 1970s, and I was fully involved in a variety of church activities when I was young and energetic. I particularly loved playing the bass guitar in the church music team for 17 years, retiring just before I was 69. I think they'd had enough of me by then. However, that was a few years ago, and now I'm 82 with one foot in banana skin and the other on the overhead wires. Music has always been a big blessing in my life. I still play the piano, but I haven't played an ordinary rhythm or classical guitar for some years now. Work-wise, I'm a retired professor of statistics from Auckland University, where I was involved in establishing the departments of computer science and later statistics from out of the mathematics department, which I was head of for a while. I also ran a Christian staff group for about 13 years, and I enjoyed interaction with Christian student groups and the chaplaincies. I retired a little earlier so I could train to become a counsellor at Laidlaw College for 3 years, and then a couple of years ago I became a supervisor of counsellors. I've been counselling for over 17 years now. Unfortunately, my first wife, Pat, died at 36 after a 6-year battle with cancer. It was a very tough time for me and the boys at that time as a solo dad. I've since been happily married to Jean for 28 years, who's been a wonderful wife, especially as what was to come. Just over 10 years ago, I contracted a nasty superbug called MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. Have you got that now? I'll ask you to spell it later. I got it initially in a form of pneumonia, so it got into my lungs and affected my heart. I almost died, but a lot of people prayed for me and I survived. I also have a rare genetic form of arthritis called ankylosing spondylitis, and I was also born with a slight heart problem. It led to demise of 2 aortic heart valves, so with the superbug I had to have a third, which had to be permanent and therefore metal. So as long as I don't get rusty and I keep away from people with strong magnetic personalities, I'm okay. Because I also have artificial knees and hips, some from sport damage, I played a lot of it, when I go through security I say, here comes a 5-piece band. My form of arthritis has given me a stoop, unfortunately not through too much praying. The lesson I learned was that I was saved to serve. I write books, mathematics ones until more recently. So I got cracking, and in the 10 years since I've written 8 books involving 4 statistics and 4 counselling type topics, on giving a total of 23 altogether. My latest 2 are Alcohol, A Dangerous Love Affair, and just finished now, Do You Get Enough Sleep? The Science of Sleep and How to Get More. I need counselling for my compulsive writing. I also got interested in apologetics and have contributed to our apologetics group over the last 5 years, as well as writing a book on it. What have I learned? 1, keep laughing even if it kills you. 2, we need to put God first. It doesn't necessarily mean comfort, because some of the Old Testament carriers had a pretty hard time, but they needed to follow God's will. And because I've tried to do this in my academic life, I believe God has blessed me with rapid promotions and so on. Most of the time, people are more important than what I do. It helps keep self out of the way. It's like loving your neighbour as yourself. Now, I've kept forth as my pearl, and it comes from a newsletter by Every Home for Christ, a missionary group which I've been supporting a long time. An Indian pastor and his family suffered under the hand of Hindu extremists. They assaulted him as his family. They assaulted him so his family had to flee into the wilderness. And while they were there, they destroyed his belongings, demolished his house. He was told he would be killed if he appeared in his village where he was brought up and which he loved. He said, "I'm not worried about myself. Empty I came and empty I'll return. Only God's work should not stop." Thank you.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Welcome everyone, my name is Paul. I'm 73 years old. I've lived on the North Shore for most of my life and have lived in the East Coast Bay since I married my lovely wife Carol nearly 51 years ago. I've worked as a teacher for my whole working life, 56 years. Most of that time in the East Coast Bays, having worked at Mairangi Bay and Murrays Bay Primary Schools, as well as North Cross and Murrays Bay Intermediates. I also spent 10 years as principal of Paraimorimo School and spent the last 14 years of my career as deputy principal at Murrays Bay Intermediate, where I still do some relieving teaching. Carol and I have been involved in Murrays Bay, Windsor Park Baptist for about 35 years. Although we were both baptised as infants in the Anglican Church, we met at the Holy Trinity Anglican Youth Group in Devonport and were married in that church. We were both baptised by immersion at Murrays Bay Baptist. A few years ago, I developed a lesion on one of my arms, and my GP sent me to a skin specialist for further investigation. The specialist said that the lesion was not too serious, but needed to be removed. But when she examined the rest of my body, she discovered a melanoma and a pre-melanoma on my leg. Both of these could have been extremely serious, if not fatal, if they had not been discovered early. Last year, I was sent to have a CT scan on my kidneys as part of a check on my hypertension. What the scan did show was that I had a carcinoma on one of my kidneys. Because the CT scan had discovered this before it had grown too large, it was able to be removed relatively easily. Many people would say that because both these potentially serious conditions had been caught early, I had been lucky, or that it was good fortune, but that's not what I believe. I believe that God is always working in our lives for our good, and that is my pearl of wisdom.
Greetings to you, my church family. I am Carol, and as Paul has said, we have been part of this church family for 30 plus years and have had the joy of seeing our children and now our grandchildren explore their faith. Many years ago, while out walking, my heart was captured by a young boy heading off to school. His face, his stance echoed a freedom, a joy that my heart was longing for. The longing to walk each day as the beloved child of God. Isaiah 52, 1-2 is a beautiful invitation from God for his captive children to awaken, asking them to put on strength, to dress in their beautiful garment of splendour, and to shake the dust that is collected from them. He then calls them to arise and to let go of the bondage that they have placed around their neck, for he has set them free. This is the journey I have walked, a journey of surrendering all those old beliefs that have kept me stuck in the vicious cycle of trying to earn my own grace and need to find worth. So what have I learnt on this journey? The need to sit at Jesus' feet where he stills my anxious mind, so I can hear his gentle whisper into my heart, watering my soul with his love and truth. That only God's whispers of love could bring my heart to a place of surrender where I was able to let go of the hollow, empty feeling of trying to earn my own grace. But the greatest gift is the joy of the new song singing in my soul, a song of love and joy, and the freedom, the lightness of a beautiful garment of splendour as I arise and walk as God's beloved daughter. To trust and rest in God's redeeming love, that is my pearl of wisdom.